So, Dr. Joe, you meditate for 2 hours every morning. I mean, maybe that's the ideal, but not everybody has either the time or the self-discipline to get up at 4:55 in the morning to meditate for 2 hours. If someone takes your workshop, do they have to plan for the rest of their lives to set aside 2 hours, or can they do it in short bursts? Or
Sure. Well, I don't expect anybody to do that aside from me, and the process that they'll learn in the workshop doesn't take that long. The thing is that when you start drinking from the well, when you start making contact with that power within you, as you start beginning to make some important changes, it's not something that you have to do. It's actually becomes something that you actually enjoy doing, that you actually look forward to doing. It's not painful or it's not hard. It's not like that at all. It becomes something where the body begins to relax and people begin to become more liberated, and they move out of that, hardcore emotional state that has to do with those survival chemicals of stress that keep the body out of chemical balance. And so it doesn't have to be that long. And in the workshops that are taught, the process normally only takes about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And so you can make it as long or as short as you want, as long as you actually get up as somebody else, different than when you sat down. That's the key.
Great. Well, what about for people who have been, a lot of us have seen What the Bleep Do We Know? A lot of us have seen the movie The Secret, and we do our best to think positively and follow the law of attraction or whatever it is that you want to call it. But there are a lot of people who aren't finding that they're getting the results that they want, not only in the physical manifestations, but just in their general habitual way of thinking. How long are you finding people are maybe reporting back to you that it takes when they do this meditation process? How long does it take for them to really start making changes in their personality and their mindset?
Well, it's equal to the amount of knowledge that they learn, and so we've seen pretty dramatic results with people, and we've had people's, tumors fall off their legs, and people that have had, serious spinal injuries starting to move limbs again. We've had people with, serious health problems get better. We've had people's lives change, and I think what most people don't understand is that, when they start thinking about, like, the law of attraction, or they start thinking about creating their life or their reality, they just have a thought that's somewhat backwards. And so they think that when they accumulate those things, like when they accumulate their wealth or their success, or when they get their new house or the new car or whatever their dream is, that's the time that they should be happy when it finally comes. And what most people don't understand is that they spend the majority of their time living by certain emotions that become part of their personality. Now, here's an example. When you have an emotional reaction to somebody or something, that emotional reaction has a chemical refractory period. And if we don't know how to control that emotional reaction after it runs for a little bit of time, the chemical reaction that's created produces a mood. So you say to a person, "What's wrong with you?" And they say, "Oh, I'm in a mood." Well, why are you in a mood? Well, this thing happened to me 2 or 3 days ago. And if we keep those chemicals going for, say, weeks to months, that's called a temperament. And if we keep those emotions then running for years on end, that's called a personality trait. So our personality traits are made up primarily by the emotions that we memorize. So now, if emotions are the end product of experience, and we can remember experiences better because we can remember how they feel. You remember how you felt during 9/11. You can tell me exactly where you were and who you were with. You remember the birth of your children, or your wedding, or going on a vacation. You can remember that because the experience changed your internal chemical state. And because you can notice the change in your internal chemical state, you pay attention to what does it. So a person then memorizes an emotional state that becomes part of their personality, And that emotion becomes so stable within their being, they become so familiar with it, that now they say, I am unhappy, I am unworthy, I am insecure. And if emotions are the end product of past experiences, and the person's living by the same emotion every day, they're literally thinking in the past. So there's a gap between the way the person appears, how they present themselves to the world, and then there's how they really feel. And that gap between how they appear and how they really feel is determined by the amount of emotions that they memorize. So now they can think positively all they want. They could have the biggest dream board, but if it doesn't have an emotional quotient in which they begin to feel the joy and the passion of that event, and they're still living the rest of their day in fear or anxiety or unworthiness or insecurity, their mind is connected to the past, and so they'll always keep creating more of the past. So the personal change that has to take place is the person has to begin to realize what emotion. Remember, emotion is energy in motion. What emotion am I embracing every day? Because if emotion is energy in motion, then and the person experiences the same emotion every single day, they're freezing energy in their life to be exactly the same. There is no available energy to create with. So then they have to begin to unmemorize that emotion and begin to transmute that fear or that insecurity or that guilt into another emotion. And that process of unmemorizing that emotion literally liberates the energy out of their body, and it becomes free energy now to create with. And so as they begin to remove the masks of those emotions that they've memorized that become part of their personality, as energy begins to liberate, how they appear and who they are becomes more merged, and they develop this state of transparency. The final result of that is, as they start to overcome their anger and their fear and their guilt and their pain and their sadness, they start to get happy. Now, the moment they start to feel joy, that natural state of being that most human beings are privileged to, as they begin to find joy within themselves, independent of the conditions in their life, or what we would call unconditional love, then that's when the experience finds them. That's when the event happens. So most people say, oh, well, I'll have, when I have these possessions, or I'm going to accumulate these possessions to make me happy. What that really means is they're living by Newtonian laws. They're living by very classical laws of physics. In other words, they'll go out and they'll do whatever it takes to get the things they want in their life, or the experiences that they want. And they think that once they have those things or those experiences, that will bring them a certain amount of joy. That's the backwards thinking in the quantum law. The quantum law actually works the other way. Transmute the emotion into something else, and once we're able to do that then, and change the mind and the body ahead of the experience, to make a new mind and recondition the body to a new emotion ahead of the experience, that's when the person finds joy for no reason, and that's when the events start to find them, and they start to experience a greater sense of self.